Look to your neighbors, look to each other, be self-sufficient. We will get to the issues as quickly as we can, but the event will likely be larger than we could absorb under a normal set of circumstances. So we're asking for your help. Our goal is to put this city back on its feet as quickly as possible. And I know that every single employee that works for the city of Raleigh is dedicated and ready to do that. Third, communications. How are we going to communicate? How are we going to share information during this particular event? Communications is everything. First of all, we obviously have our City of Raleigh website in the hurricane section. So City of Raleigh's website, www.raleighNC.gov. Raleigh NC, one word. Again, www.raleighNC.gov, and there'll be a hurricane section on the website. We are also going to activate a non-emergency call center phone number tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. so that we can consolidate calls and questions and concerns from our citizens in one particular location. I'm going to give you that number, although it's not going to be activated until tomorrow morning. That number is 919-996-2999. So again, 919-996-2999. Folks can call that number to report trees that are maybe down, blocking the right-of-way or the road, traffic signals that may be out, street flooding, blocking a street. By calling that number, we'll take that information into our database, we'll feed it to our Emergency Operations Center, and then we can map where those locations are and push that information back out to the people that are in the community. Does that make sense? So again, 919-996-2999, beginning at 7 a.m. tomorrow morning. Let me be very clear. If you have an emergency, if you have a life-threatening situation, please call 911. That phone number is not to suggest that you're not supposed to call 911. That's really a supplemental call location to report things so we can track the data and free up our 911 center for true emergency calls. But if you're in any doubt, call 911. We also have our Twitter accounts and Facebook, which will also be constantly pushing out information. So finally, let me wrap up. What are we looking at? What's going to be happening next? We're going to be continuing to push out information. We're going to continue our preparations, regardless of what the track says, until this is over. And we're going to ask for the community help. From my experience in these particular situations, folks are pretty good for about the first 3 or 4 days. If you hit day 4 and you haven't had a shower, you haven't had a hot meal, and you haven't slept well because you don't have any air conditioning, people get frustrated with one another. Okay, if we're in that situation, we're going to be doing everything we can as the city to try to mitigate those conditions in our neighborhoods and our community. But we're also going to need everyone else's help to try to accommodate that. Let me conclude again by recognition of the support we have from our mayor and council, the support we have from the leadership of the City of Raleigh, and from all of our employees, not only from the City of Raleigh's perspective, but all our public agencies. I just want to take a moment to say thank you for their service, and we stand ready to manage this particular event. So with that, I think we're ready to move to questions.
Yep. So thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Ruffin. Let's start with questions. Anna.
Yeah, we've talked a lot about the preparation, but I'm wondering what residents should or shouldn't be doing during this time and in the immediate aftermath, if there's the most important thing or something you'd like to emphasize.
Well, I think there's a lot of preparation materials that are on the various media sites that have already gone out there, so I don't want to try to list what's already been described. My main message at this point, and I think this is true for all of our emergency responders, is to complete your preparations and sit still and protect yourselves through the event. So again, if there's wind, we may have wind damage, we may have flooding threats or whatever. People moving around during that event is our biggest problem, okay? Folks need to make their preparations and then sit still through the event.
Hi, Sloan Heffernan, WRAL News. Thanks for being here. And I have 2 water-based questions. Number 1, we'd like to know about Crabtree Creek and any steps being taken to mitigate issues in that area that is prone to flooding. And number 2, people have been stockpiling water. What is the threat to the water system? Can you talk about that a little bit?
Let's do the water system first. So The city of Raleigh has 2 water plants, and those water plants have backup generator power. So under normal conditions, we should not lose power, and therefore, if you're on the city of Raleigh's public utility system, you should not lose any water-related service. Now, there's always circumstances that we can't predict that may potentially impact that. For example, if we were to lose power at one of our water treatment plants, or it would be compromised by flooding, there's a potential that we wouldn't be able to fully have water service, but that is very unlikely. So the water discussion, at least through the media, really should be more focused on folks that are not on the city of Raleigh's water system, because they may be on wells, so that when they lose power, they don't have access to water. On the Crabtree Creek situation, we have monitors as to know exactly what kind of storm situation we may have. Crabtree Creek is a location now that's been flooding under normal conditions. So we're going to receive a lot of water in that situation. And at this point, there's not much more we can do other than monitor and notify what may be coming.
Yes, sir.
I'm with Univision, Antonio, Univision, either the governor is overreacting and being pessimistic and calling this event catastrophic, and every expert is calling this a catastrophic event. Thousands of people can die. Or you guys, including you and the mayor, are very calm, very, about this, and probably you think that this is not going to be a very catastrophic event, as Governor Cooper is saying. If residents of this town listen this morning to the governor, and then listen to you right now, they're completely different scenarios. Which one are you really calm and because you have everything under control, or is he overreacting to something that is called one of the biggest events in a catastrophic level event?
So I will just simply speak for the city of Raleigh. So I happened to be in the city of Wilmington on the ground in 1996 for Hurricane Fran. Hurricane Fran was a Category 3 storm when it made landfall. And it was devastating, not only to the city of Wilmington, but to all the various communities, including Raleigh, that was impacted. I think that this is a very, very serious threat. This is a serious storm that we are all taking with the challenges that are in front of us. Some of the projections at this point are at Category 4. If you put that in context, if it were to remain a Category 4 and make landfall, it would be the most significant hurricane event to hit North Carolina since Hurricane Hazel in 1954. So I think it is fair to say that often we get focused on these storm tracks, these projections about where they're going to go. And the reality is that no hurricane has actually hit in the location that it was projected, that I'm aware of, having done this for 23 years. So the message should be, take this seriously, make preparations. We are concerned, but we are also ready for the challenges that are ahead.
Over here.
So it's not a catastrophic event.
Hi, I'm Amy Elliott with Spectrum News. I know that there have been some announcements about shelters throughout the county so far. What do we know so far about other shelters that are going to be opening in Raleigh, or do we know yet?
So Wake County Emergency Management is handling the opening of shelters. The city of Raleigh doesn't operate the shelters, and we have a really very strong, very effective partnership with Wake County Emergency Management on the shelters, and so they are making those announcements. They are opening shelters not only to manage the evacuees that are coming from the coast, but also to help manage and prepare for our own folks. I don't have the specific list right off the top of my head. I think that Wake County Emergency Management can give you the most latest and up-to-date information for that. We support the shelter operations if they need any assistance because we have a joint arrangement, but Wake County takes the lead.
There we go. Elena from ABC 11. Are there any fears or perhaps preparations folks who live in certain communities, low-lying areas, that they would have to be evacuated from their homes. I know you mentioned Crabtree Creek, that sits right by the mall. People inevitably will park down there, but homes-wise, is that a fear you have right now?
So we have preparations, if needed, for evacuations for folks in low-lying areas. And many of those particular folks are always in that particular, they are familiar with flooding in those areas that occur on a regular basis. So for us, we are prepared to manage that in conjunction with state emergency management, because oftentimes it involves the relationship with the Corps of Engineers and other areas. We are preparing for evacuations and notifications if needed in the low-lying areas.
Michael Hyland from CBS 17. Had a couple questions related to emergency response. Was wondering first if anybody could speak to any staffing changes that have been made during the storm itself.
So we are definitely staffing for our full event. We have brought in some additional staffing as needed to backfill, but in all of our emergency responders, whether that's police and fire, those folks have existing structures in place. Both the police chief and the fire chief could certainly speak in great detail about how they manage that. But we do bring in a different staffing model when we are facing a significant event. So they are staffed up and ready to go.
And is there a point during the storm where emergency responders do not go out because it is so unsafe for them based on the weather conditions?
Yes, the answer to that is yes. So not only emergency responders, but for example, our transit system, our buses, we generally have a standard at about 35 miles an hour sustained winds. We cease operations. For the fire department, and Chief McGrath can correct me if I'm wrong, I believe at 50 miles an hour, we are going to suspend operations on a general basis. Obviously, there is some judgment there that the fire department and the police department make in terms of evaluating the threat versus the protection of our own employees and their equipment that they need to make. But generally speaking, at least for the fire department, because the trucks, they're big trucks, 50 miles an hour, we generally suspend operations. Let me just simply say we will do everything we can, regardless of the situation, to help protect lives and property. And that involves judgment that they know how to make. But when the conditions get severe enough, we will protect our equipment and our employees as well.
Any other questions? Anna?
You mentioned the notifying people in low-lying areas. Roughly how many people is that, and what exactly are you telling them? Is it seek higher ground, just be aware?
So Blair Hinkle with Engineering Services, I'll ask you to help me with that particular question.
Sure. So we are in the process of reaching out to more than 26,000 people currently, and the message is just that if you live in a low-lying area, seek higher ground, particularly prior to the storm hitting.
But not in a mandatory evacuation? Or...
That's correct.
There's a lot of construction going on. We were just downtown, and some of the workers were taking down their equipment. Is there any communication from the city with these construction groups, what's being done to make sure that none of these items become projectiles during the storm?
Yes, we do reach out, particularly informally, because we have relationships with our development services folks and our inspectors and those types of folks. Usually they're pretty well on top of how to secure those sites, because we want to make sure that those don't become obstacles or threats during the event. So we do reach out on an informal basis.
Last questions? No?
Maybe last thoughts from the main person.
I think that the I think the manager subbed it up very well. Really, our priority is safety during the event, and certainly safety after the event too. But we have a great staff, I have great confidence in everyone, but I also have great confidence in this community to be able to pull together and help each other and see us through this. So thank you very much.
All right, so as the mayor and as the manager said, please check our website, raleighnc.gov, as well as follow us on social media. We're providing updates as they are available. And depending on how this event plays out, we may have another press conference in the coming days. Thank you very much.
All right, guys, so we're back in the newsroom here in D.C. at Fox 5 D.C. in Washington, D.C. And really what we know here is that if you're in the DMV area, I know a lot of you are from everywhere, so let me know in the comments where you're watching from. But the DMV area likely to get a little bit of rain this weekend, and it isn't looking too pressing. But for the folks in North Carolina who we just heard from, they are looking to really get hit on the coast. That storm, as our meteorologist Mike Thomas relayed to us earlier, is slated to sort of stay on the coast before it makes landfall and really create some damage. You can see in this graphic here that we've been showing you as it changes from category 4 into, and it comes more close to the coast and then inland. It changes obviously as it hits landfall, but it stalls around where you see that number 2. And that's what we know right now, according to the latest models. So be on the lookout if you are in those coastal kind of Carolina areas. Obviously, we just heard from the mayor's office what they are imploring people to do, which is to evacuate, to get out if you're in one of those zones that is not safe to be in, and to really stay away and get into those shelters space in Raleigh if need be. So if you are on with us, hey, thanks for watching and letting us know where you're watching from. I know everybody's really from everywhere. This may not exactly affect you, but for now, guys, before we get some other people on the line or some other official pressers about this storm, relaying the information about how to handle it this weekend, we're going to show you these chilling images from NASA. Take a look at these aerial views of the storm, and we're going to queue up some other stuff and keep you informed. So stay on with us throughout the afternoon. We're going to bring you all the live press conferences from South Carolina, North Carolina, any of those cities. We're going to see if we can jump down to where one of our meteorologists, Gary McGrady, is in North Carolina and kind of get the scoop of what it's looking like there. I'll show you right now. Their shot in their car is really serene. That's in the front of his car. They are near Topsail Beach, North Carolina, and it is looking really gorgeous. It's a beautiful morning. He had his feet in the sand this morning, and it was just a stunning day. That is all soon to change with those winds that are coming close to the coast. Right now, the storm is moving at 15 miles an hour, and then within the storm, it's about 130 miles an hour, according to the latest models. So it is, like you guys are saying, going to be a menace to some areas, and it looks like they are driving away right now, and they're going to get on the road to another place. So we're going to see if we can get in touch with them. But before we do that, check out these images from NASA, and then we'll get some more information from Gary in a second. testament to
see how it works.
All right, y'all, we are back in the newsroom here. We're going to give you a little bit of an update from our meteorologist, Gary McGrady, who's down in North Carolina. He's been driving around sort of some of the beach towns there. I'm going to take his shot here, and we're going to listen in for him because he's on the phone with us. Gary, can you hear us?
I can hear you now. The question is, can you hear me?
Yes, we can, and we see your shot. Awesome. So tell us sort of what you've been doing this morning and what you've been seeing.
Well, first of all, I got to say it's beautiful down here. Just ahead of the storm. It's almost hard to realize that the storm is 500-600 miles now offshore, but it's so gorgeous here. And having dealt with a lot of North Carolina hurricanes when I lived here for several years, it's very normal for it to be very beautiful the day before a hurricane approaches. So this is not uncommon. And it really is kind of cool in a sense because it gives people a chance to prepare. And we've been down, we're in Jacksonville, North Carolina, which is pretty much 30 miles inland or so, and it's between Emerald Island or Atlantic Beach and then Wilmington, North Carolina. And we think that definitely there's going to be some pretty big effects here from Hurricane Florence, wind, a lot of rain, depending on how this whole thing plays out. But we spent most of the morning down Topsail Beach. That's not Topsail Beach, it's Topsail Beach. Surf City. That's a barrier island, and all of these barrier islands down here are under mandatory evacuation. Now, it's mandatory evacuation, but you don't have to go. You don't have to get out if you don't want to get out. But you got to understand that those people that choose not to leave, there's going to be a certain point where nobody's going to come in to help them if they really do need help.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what a mandatory evacuation means. And a lot of it was really like, I've never been on a beach in the middle of summer, or it's not necessarily the middle of summer, but in September, where there was so few people. The houses are boarded up, storm shelters, and very few people are left doing any work.
Right, I saw that, and we saw your live shot this morning. It was so gorgeous on that beach. You were barefoot and just hanging out.
Yep, and there was nobody on the beach.
That's amazing. So people are taking this seriously. People are, I mean, from what you've experienced, people pretty much are evacuating, right?
Oh, yeah, and a little background here. In 1996, Hurricane Fran came along, and in most recent memory, between Fran and Bertha that year, that really got North Carolina's attention. So if you live along the beach communities, you don't play with it. And then in 1999, they got Floyd, and that was a pretty strong storm too. So these guys down here, they have a plan. They respect what these storms can do, all the storm surge, the wind, and then what we think we're going to get a lot of with this particular storm is inland flooding. We're basically moving through the outskirts of Jacksonville right now. That's where we are because we're pretty far removed from the shore. So we think we're away from the storm surge. And we're going to figure out a way that we're in a safe place when the wind shows up, probably tomorrow night and into Friday.
Yeah, so have you seen anybody sort of puttering about anywhere? Have you talked to any people randomly at gas stations?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And most people are all of the same mind. They are doing their best to take care of their property here and then finding shelter farther inland.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we just got word that the Walmart next to our hotel, it's kind of like it's our lifeline too, closes at 5.
Oh.
Some of the hotels in the area have completely closed and sent everybody out. They've said, get out, we're closing. Our hotel promises they're not going to do that.
Oh my!
We're just trying to figure out if we can get enough rooms because a lot of people are moving. This is they feel like this might be a safe place for them.
Mm-hmm.
So they're going to try and spend a few nights in the hotel here in Jacksonville too.
Okay, interesting. So now tell me too, what is you guys' plan? Obviously, you're hoping everything works out with the hotel. You stay there. Tomorrow, what are you going to be exploring? Where is safe to go?
Yeah, most of the day tomorrow should be okay. And then as we start getting into tomorrow night and Friday, we are actually right now, the reason we're headed back to the hotel, we've done all the morning shows, but the reason we're headed back to the hotel is because we are going to start to kind of what we call site survey to figure out where we can place our trucks and where we can stay safe against the wind. And not only that, but we want to make sure that even in the hotel we'll be safe. So there's a lot of things to look at. There's a lot of planning to try and make sure we can see satellites, have a satellite signal going at the same time, but at the same time have the truck in someplace where it's safe, and that we're somewhat safe. I mean, trust me, look, I'm not one of these guys that's going to be out running around trying to get blown around by 90-mile-per-hour winds just so everybody can see me on TV.
Right.
That's not how I look at this. You know, I'm still a meteorologist. I still, in my mind, understand how strong and how dangerous these things can be. And in terms of what I'm here for is we advance the story after the storm. You know, there's a lot of people up north that own property down here or have family down here. So that's kind of what, and we'll try to safely show pictures during the storm. But more importantly for me and my crew, we want to be safe, and we want to be in place to advance the story after the fact.
Exactly. And that's a really good point. I was thinking about the people who come down there. They own property. They come every summer. Do you think there are people kind of hustling down there today on this last day to kind of get everything in order?
You asked the greatest questions because we just met a family, man and wife, and their name was the Stricklands. Great couple. They're from Elizabethtown, which is about 60 miles from here, and they own a beach house. And they got down here this morning, and they were just figuring if they could just grab some personal effects out of their beach house, it would be great. Some pictures, things like that. Their house has ridden out some of the other hurricanes and really not had any problems. So we're not too worried about it, but they came down this morning, and when we found them and talked to them, they were so nice. Actually, Mr. Strickland is a magician.
Oh my goodness. That's cool.
Kind of nice. And so he basically told us that he had found some plywood underneath the house he didn't even know he had, and they were actually boarding up some of the windows. And that can help. I mean, but there's also times where that's not going to help too. So that can get pulled away with the wind. But they're trying to do any little thing they can do to protect their house. They were going to be leaving shortly after us, getting off of the island.
The island.
I hope that didn't affect anything.
Yeah, so today kind of is really the last day, right, to wrap up all that stuff, because as we were talking about it, they got it tomorrow morning is sort of the big timing for this.
They closed all these barrier islands. They have obviously nice big bridges going in. They'll close those bridges later on this evening, so nobody's getting back over onto the barrier islands.
Okay.
Now they'll be able to come off the barrier islands as long as they can possibly come off the barrier islands. And of note for Topsail, they were actually shutting down the power grid and the water grid onto the island. So at 1 o'clock today. So the convenience stores down there, the gas stations down there that were still open, are all shutting down at 1 o'clock. So after 1 o'clock today, there's not going to be anything accessible down there. And I've heard farther to the south, down towards Wilmington, Wrightsville Beach, Carolina Beach, places like that, those islands have already been closed off and you can't get into them. That's what some of the surfers told us. They said they had to come north to surf today because they weren't allowed to go out into the water.
Right. I was actually going to ask you that because we saw some surfers on some of our live cams. I think it's kind of more south towards Myrtle Beach area, which is obviously down South Carolina. But did you see a bunch of surfers?
Oh yeah, we talked to some of them. We'll have some of that tonight at 5 o'clock. And they're disappointed. They said the surfing sucked. They said that they were afraid that the fact that the surfing is no good because it was good for Fran, it was good for Floyd, it was good for Bertha, and some of the other storms that have come through. They said it's almost always great. But this one, not so much. And you know, from their anecdotal sense, it's not a good omen as far as they're concerned.
Oh my goodness!
So I hope they were wrong.
That's funny.
But they were super nice.
Yeah.
And they gave us a lot of background information. And
That's awesome.
They were just really good guys. So
Yeah.
we'll have a little bit of that coming up in the 5 o'clock news.
Perfect. That's awesome. What a great tease out for that. So you guys can catch. Thanks, Gary. This is a great shot, and we'll catch you again. Hopefully.
Yeah, we're at our hotel now, so we're going to try to figure out some logistics and some mechanical issues.
Perfect. Okay, we'll catch you later.
Bye.
Bye. All right, y'all. So the latest there from Gary down in North Carolina, and he's gonna be down there catching all the information tomorrow and next couple of days as well. So if you are in our area, yes, tune in tonight and catch some of his interviews with some of those surfers and some of the cool people he met, because it sounds like he's met sort of a smorgasbord of all different types of people, families who are staying and riding it out, other people who are leaving. And he said the majority of people that they found were kind of following protocol and evacuating. So we're really going to take the latest information in for you here as we have any video stream that's coming up on what to do next or any new information. As Mike Thomas was saying, our meteorologist earlier, he was saying, you know, these updates come in sporadic chunks every couple of hours. No major update from Weather Service until 5 p.m. Eastern time tonight. So it's still a few hours away. We got like 4 or so hours. But we'll be doing more updates sort of in the mid-afternoon kind of time as we roll through this stream here into the afternoon. So if you're on with us, and maybe you're from the area, maybe you're not, but as you know, you've seen, and we've kind of reiterated this, the models here of the maps of what's sort of happening here. This is the storm, Category 4. It will, of course, weaken as it approaches land, but it does hang out where you see that number 2. It kind of hangs out off the coast of North Carolina and northern South Carolina, and then kind of makes its way in, and to be determined what happens after that. So they're looking right now just at the models and the scales and how much wind is actually blowing around, and the wind right around the eye of the storm is pretty hefty right now. As of this morning, the model said about 130 miles an hour. So just talking to the weather guys and getting more information about this. I've been educating myself on this, and it really is a sight to be seen. And we were showing you earlier the NASA kind of view from the sky, which is just incredible. And it's kind of slow moving here if I play through it. But they just captured some amazing shots, and they've been, a lot of astronauts and NASA related people have been tweeting these out and talking about just the scale, really the scale of this storm, and what it looks like from space is amazing. Meanwhile, a couple other shots that we have. This one is Wrightsville Beach in North Carolina, and I realized I was saying Topsail Beach wrong the whole time. It is Topsail, not Topsail, which is funny because I went to school in Carolina and I should know that state a little bit more. But this is a beautiful site right now too, Wrightsville Beach. People getting, I think what those are probably photographers and camera people getting some footage there of the beach as this hurricane makes its way. So let's see if we can gather a little more video for you guys. I also have, getting it together here, another official shot from NASA that I'm going to find for you, and we'll leave that on to kind of give you the scope of what this looks like. It'll be a live kind of moving shot of the stream of this storm. And then anything else that crops up our way, we're going to bring that to you live, and we're going to move on with some other stories, top stories of the day. And keep you guys informed. But take a look at this satellite image. This is what's coming in right now. It's cool. NASA just provides some amazing shots, and this is what they're giving us right here. So as this one moves, well, we'll see as it kind of goes. There we go. Yeah, this will be satellite images kind of scanning, zooming in and out of this storm. So enjoy that for just a second. We're going to queue up some other stories for today because it's not all storm, although that is really the most of it. And yeah, if you guys have comments or thoughts, I see some of you guys talking about some of the surfer people that you know. That is the thing. People, they know it's coming, and they are like, we're getting out there and going to do our thing and see what the waves are like. But according to Gary, it sounds like they're not as spectacular as some of the other storms have been. But we'll check back in with some of our meteorologist friends as well. And looks like they just cut their feed for that. I do want to stress out, we're going to be covering this all into the evening and tomorrow and Friday. And we're fox5dc.com, Fox5DC on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube here. So subscribe to our channel. We'll be back again with more in the coming hours and days. So let me throw up right here this beach shot and queue up some other stories for you guys to kind of know what's going on in our news cycle today as we cover this storm. And it's pretty cool because we've sent some of our own people. Gary McGrady, our reporter, Marina Morocco, is also down in North Carolina. I know she was gathering some images of the Home Depot, which is like empty, shelved for tonight. And people are really taking this seriously, as they should, as the governor and other officials are stressing that they should. And they are getting those supplies, getting their stuff in shelters. And one of the cooler stories too yesterday was U-Haul, the corporation brand, was providing some storage spaces for 30 days free of charge for people to make sure they can move their stuff, keep it there, and get it out of harm's way. So a lot of good humanitarian efforts coming out of this storm as well. A lot of positive angles, I guess you could say, as well. So guys, stay on with us here. Let me queue up some stuff, and we'll be back in a second.
Folks here along the East Coast boarding up and heading out ahead of the potentially catastrophic Hurricane Florence.
This one sure has all the numbers and recipe for a storm that can do some damage, so I'm just getting ready for it.
More than 5.4 million people are under hurricane warnings and watches as Hurricane Florence continues on a collision course toward the U.S. Pounding rain, damaging winds, and life-threatening storm surges expected to lash parts of the East Coast, targeting the Carolinas and Virginia. Forecasters predicting the storm could dump 1 to 2.5 feet of water in sections of North Carolina. Under mandatory evacuation orders, people are racing to get supplies, board up their homes and businesses, and clear out any living spaces in low-lying areas ahead of potential flooding.
We're below street level. We're expecting a storm surge to come up, so we just got to clear everything out of our house and head inland.
Main streets looking like ghost towns as a steady stream of vehicles use both directions of the interstate to head inland. Police escorting cars driving in the typically wrong direction. Others are already moving to emergency shelters, but despite all the warnings, some are still choosing to stay put in the path of the monster storm.
Local folks have to listen and they have to heed warnings so that they don't become casualties.
FEMA officials are warning people to take the storm seriously, saying it could destroy homes, ruin infrastructure, and knock out power to millions for days. In Wilmington, North Carolina, Lauren Blanchard, Fox News.
Well, this is going to be a busy place. President Trump met with FEMA's administrator yesterday, who is trying to stay one step ahead of this huge storm. With the evacuations along a big stretch of the East Coast underway, President Trump invited the media to an Oval Office briefing from FEMA Administrator Brock Long.
This has an opportunity of being a very devastating storm. The power's going to be off for weeks. You're going to be displaced from your home in the coastal areas, and there will be flooding in the inland areas as well.
We are sparing no expense. We are totally prepared. We're ready. We're as ready as anybody's ever been.
And a lot of those in the path of the storm are counting on that help. And we know politically what's at stake as well. President Trump was criticized for last year's response to Hurricane Maria in Puerto Rico, but he defended it, pointing to the challenges there.
I think that Puerto Rico was an incredible, unsung success.
And that drew a response from Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer, who tweeted, "This is an offensive, hurtful, and blatantly false comment from the president. Nearly 3,000 of our fellow citizens died in Puerto Rico following Hurricane Maria. That is the complete opposite of success." Now, success at this point for Florence may be hard to define, but FEMA is hoping to lay the groundwork in the critical hours ahead.
I think if the president is perceived to mishandle this hurricane, it could be real political trouble. The buck won't stop with the governors. It will stop with him.
And the logistics of that response will be very, very difficult. You look at just the watch and warning areas associated with Florence, and you're talking about 5 million people plus that may be in harm's way. In Washington, Doug Luzader, Fox News.
Will actually listen? Will they listen this time in advance of Florence? I'm Eben Brown in Wrightsville Beach, North Carolina. I'll have that story straight ahead. Officials are urging people to comply.
You know, things could get very difficult in our community over the next several days.
The decision to leave is hard to make for many who never ran from hurricanes in the past. Some will make their final decision today.
We are boarding everything up. We make sure that what we want to bring, we can bring. What we don't, just kind of have the insurance take care of it.
The fear of leaving accompanies the fear of not being able to get back after Florence passes, or maybe there won't be anything left.
We rent here, but we want to make sure that we have a place to come back to, so we're doing everything we can. We cleared out the bottom half here, pulled the boat out of the water, now we're boarding up, so, expecting the worst and hoping for the best.
Across the bridge, away from the beach on the mainland, evacuating isn't mandatory, but deciding to stay is also scary.
I have broke down crying probably 3 or 4 times because I'm honestly nervous. The only safe bet would maybe be like going west or something to Tennessee, but we just are going to try to stick it out.
More than 1 million North Carolinians are said to be evacuating the seashore. When asked why, they reply they've seen what happens elsewhere when people don't leave in advance of a major hurricane. They don't want any of that here. In Wrightsville Beach, North Carolina, Eben Brown, Fox News.
All right, so that was Fox News reporter Evan Brown in Wrightsville Beach, and we actually had a shot of that up earlier, and I think this is it. Yeah, this is, check it out right now, a live Earth cam of Wrightsville Beach of what it looks like now, and it looks pretty calm. Like we've been saying, guys, this is sort of nothing compared to what it will be later tonight and tomorrow. And we got all that information coming at you from our weather meteorologists here at the station. And before we get any more official updates, because nothing else is really rolling in currently, I do want to show you what some of the states that are going to be affected, what they've been telling people, and the official kind of press conferences that they've been letting people know and asserting what to do. This morning, South Carolina officials had a presser, and this state, as you guys can see with this map that we've been showing you, is the one that really is going to get the sort of stalling right outside on the coast, and then the touchdown, and then the remnant of the storm from there. So it's really the border of North Carolina, South Carolina, both states obviously preparing. You can see with the map of the trajectory of where that's going to happen, the rainfall and everything. And so let's go over now to one of those pressers, South Carolina this morning, briefing the media and people, and of course the people watching the press, what to do and what they're recommending people do. This is officials from South Carolina. Check it out.
We'll be shutting down those operations, and we suspect that will happen by the end of the day today. Just over the last 2 days, we've helped our citizens fill over 37,000 sandbags at those 4 locations. So people are protecting their property, and that's a great thing. Trash, garbage collection. Our city crews are out today picking up as many cans as they can. Unfortunately, our contractor that services the area outside of the Mark Clark, West Ashley, and on Johns Island, their personnel, they went ahead and shut down with the evacuation order yesterday. So we have not been able to cover the areas that they would normally cover. So this is what I would ask our citizens in the city of Charleston. At the end of the day, if you're still here and your can hadn't been picked up, please roll it back, and we'll be back to you on Monday. That's just where we are with that. So next we're going to talk about transportation and sheltering. Keith Benjamin, our Director of Transportation, is going to share some information about bus stops, and then Chairman of CARTA and our City Council member Mike Seekings will follow with more information. Keith?
Good morning, everybody. We have been in touch with our SCDOT counterparts and just want to make it clear that the lane reversal process is still very much in effect. There have been no changes to that process. So for those who are trying to move through those particular corridors, please be mindful of that as you get to and fro. Just a couple of things in terms of evacuations. As we said in our previous press conference, the blue evacuation signs are all up and available. If you need to be evacuated and you're in West Ashley or in one of the islands, please use the public information number for the county, 843-746-3900. I'm going to allow Councilmember Seekings to bring more detail about CARTA, but specifically to the evacuation shuttle that's available on the peninsula. I just want to go through the stops just so that people are well informed about them. Meeting in Mary Street, Meeting Street in Johnson, Fishburne and Rutledge, King and Mount Pleasant, Calhoun and Alexander, Bufane and Market, Bridgeview Village Apartments, Dasher Street, Rutledge and Gordon, Rutledge and Cannon, Rutledge and Bennett, Broad Street and Logan, East Bay and Hazel, Morrison and Romney. So those are particular pickup locations. It's a specific route that's on the hour that's picking up folk, and Councilmember Seekins will give more detail. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Keith. Good morning, everybody. I'm Mike Seekings, Charleston City Council and Chairman of CARTA. First, I want to thank the mayors that are here, our chiefs that are here, and everybody else who's working in this building behind us. Getting prepared for an event like this takes an enormous amount of hard work from some seriously dedicated employees, and I will tell you, behind those doors are people working very hard to make sure that the citizens of this community are safe, and that's no different at CARTA. Our mission is to make sure that we can move people to safety, and as Mayor Haney said, the one equation that you can put into this to take the uncertainty out is move yourself, and we are here to help that. So here's where we are with CARTA. Today, CARTA is operating our schedule countywide until 9 o'clock. We are also running what we call our hurricane circulator buses, which are on the peninsula, which Mr. Benjamin just talked about with the 14 stops on the peninsula, also until 9 o'clock. Those are the blue signs that you see. My understanding is that the county is going to stop picking up at the blue signed evacuation spots at 6 o'clock. But if you live in an area where there is regular CARTA service and you need to be evacuated and you're not on the peninsula after 6 o'clock, get on a regularly scheduled CARTA bus and we will make sure you get to where you need to be and get staged to get to a shelter. So CARTA will be up and running until 9. If you get on after 6 and before 9, it is likely we will be directing people straight to the shelters and not via the county buildings. So after 9 o'clock, CARTA, like just about everything else around here, is going to cease operating. Our services will be suspended. We're going to see what happens going forward as to when we ramp back up again, particularly on the emergency routes. But the message is this. Right now, if you're riding a CARTA bus, do it to get to a place of safety, not to a place away from your home, away from where you're going. Use this resource to get away from the storm. There's going to be water at a minimum and probably a little bit more. So if you have any questions, go to ridecarta.com/Florence. Call the county hotline if you want to know where you are. We, officials of CARTA, will be riding the circulator buses today to help people move about. So any questions, go to ridecarta.com, get with the county. 9 o'clock is the cutoff, so please make preparations now. If you're going to use our services, to be on there well ahead of that. Thank you very much.
And then I just wanted to get a report for you from our public safety officials. We have with us today our Assistant Fire Chief Joey Roberts and Police Chief Luther Reynolds. Chief Roberts, would you like to give an update on our fire department efforts?
At this time, the Charleston Fire Department continues to prep for Hurricane Florence. At this time, we are in the process of requesting additional resources from the state of South Carolina to support us in this operation. We'll have additional personnel on staff tomorrow to support us with this operation. Our USAR teams are being fully activated starting tomorrow evening. So we are prepping and looking forward to hopefully a better outcome than what we saw this morning on local weather channels. That's all we have for right now. Thank you.
Okay, guys, let's take a second to bring it back into the newsroom here in D.C. We are tracking, of course, Hurricane Florence throughout the afternoon, throughout the next couple days. And we have some video coming in right now from our meteorologist, Gary McGrady, who is down in North Carolina, gathering elements, talking to some people and seeing sort of what they're doing to prep for the storm. Those are coming in slowly, so we're going to kind of cut in and show you a little preview of tonight of what he's going to be talking about on our air here in D.C. And again, less of a warning for people in the DMV area. If you guys are in D.C., Maryland, Virginia, we're slated to perhaps even have a sunny day on Saturday, maybe, and then some rain on Sunday. But again, things can change. We're going to have more expertise from our meteorologists later on tonight. But most of this really is, the brunt of it really is the Carolinas, North and South Carolina. So I also want to go over to show you what the mayor of North Carolina had to say. Today there was an official press conference this morning. Not the mayor, sorry, the governor of North Carolina, Roy Cooper, official emergency management meeting and press conference this morning where he outlined sort of their protocol with what they're going to be doing today and for the next couple of days. So take a look at what they had to say. This is Governor Cooper speaking just a few mere hours ago about the state of North Carolina. So we'll pull away from South Carolina, switch it up to North.
Shelters began opening yesterday, with more opening today to take people in who've been displaced by evacuations. There are at least 16 shelters that are open now, and we are truly grateful for the volunteers, the Red Cross, and others who are helping us. I've authorized more North Carolina National Guard soldiers to report for duty. By 7 p.m. today, 2,800 soldiers will be on active duty, joined by even more on standby. These soldiers are directed to preserve life and safety and provide route clearance of roads and support communications and logistics. Prisons and jails in vulnerable areas are being evacuated as well. Long-term care facilities have been urged to work with local emergency management officials to ensure resident and patient safety. Today, our state parks and museums are closed, state universities have canceled classes, and many public schools are closing as well, plus providing their buildings as shelters. No matter where this storm comes ashore, it will have widespread, significant impacts in North Carolina. The coast will feel the blast first thing in the morning, with damaging, life-threatening surge, winds, and rain. Those of you in central North Carolina should be prepared to feel the impact of the storm from Thursday night through the weekend due to the sustained rainfall and persistent wind. And western North Carolina residents should be prepared for heavy rain. As we remember earlier this year, that can trigger mudslides and road closings. In short, every county and every person in North Carolina needs to stay alert and to take this storm seriously. Yesterday, I ordered a state evacuation of North Carolina's barrier islands from the Virginia border to the South Carolina line. And thanks to our local partners, many evacuation orders are in place for other areas. And I urge residents to heed those orders. For those not under evacuation orders, gather your emergency supplies if you haven't already. Food, water, flashlights, extra batteries, medications, important documents if you need to evacuate. Remember to make plans for your pets and clear your yard of debris that can cause damage in high winds. Finally, download the Ready NC app for updates and to learn the weather about the storm, and call 211 for information or to connect you with local resources. I want to thank everyone across our state helping us get ready for this storm. And I want to introduce part of North Carolina's team here to provide input for you. To my far right here is Mike Sprayberry, Director of Emergency Management. Next is Colonel Glenn McNeil, the Commander of the State Highway Patrol. Immediately behind me is Dr. Mandy Cohen, the Secretary of the Department of Health and Human Services. We also have Secretary Jim Trogdon, the Secretary of Transportation, to my immediate left. We have our Federal Coordinating Officer from FEMA, Albie Lewis, who is here with us in the middle there. And of course, we have the General of the North Carolina National Guard, Major General Gregory Lusk, who's here. So I'm going to recognize some of these for updates, and then we will take your questions. So Mike Sprayberry, we'll begin with you.
Thank you, Governor. Good morning, everyone. We continue to urge all North Carolina residents and visitors to comply with local evacuation orders from our local jurisdictions. I'd also like to thank our county partners for all their hard work as we prepare for the impacts of Hurricane Florence. The State Emergency Operations Center is activated at level 2. We anticipate going to a level 1 full up tonight. Of course, we're on a 24-hour schedule. We are ramping up with additional National Guard, as you've just heard the governor refer to, as well as more swiftwater rescue boats, search and rescue task forces, helicopters, ambulances, and a whole host of other assets to include commodities. We positioned some of these assets forward, and we also have staged others locally in Garner. Our federal, state, volunteer, and private sector partners stand ready to provide the full spectrum of disaster response capability to Hurricane Florence. And thank you very much for your support today.
Colonel McNeil, the Commander of the State Highway Patrol.
Thank you, Governor. Good morning. The State Highway Patrol continues to make appropriate preparations for this powerful storm as it approaches. Troopers statewide have been placed on alert to ensure that they are ready should they be called in the need at a moment's occurrence. In part, this allows us to be readily organized and allocate members to the affected areas. Yesterday, in partnership with the Department of Transportation, and we remain to do so today, members assisted with the evacuation process along our ferry terminals and along the Outer Banks. Additionally, the patrol is removing abandoned vehicles and disabled vehicles from along our evacuation routes to ensure that our roadways and shoulders are clear for motorists and emergency responders. The patrol at this time has 14 squads of troopers statewide that have been assembled and identified and are ready to deploy to the areas of immediate need after the landfall. Additionally, the patrol has 4 squads of personnel that will be reporting to Wake County for briefing and assignment. The patrol's civilian staff are assisting with telecommunications, and our network technicians are working diligently behind the scenes to ensure that proper response procedures are in place for our state. I will assure you that every member of the State Highway Patrol stands ready to support when the need arises. We will continue to work with our federal and state law enforcement partners to ensure that our public safety remains our highest priorities. I ask our motoring public in advance to please do not call 911 or Star HP for roadway conditions. Leave these lines of communication open for emergency situations. Up-to-date roadway conditions can be found by visiting drivenc.gov. Thank you, Governor.
Thank you, Colonel. Our Secretary of Department of Health and Human Services, Dr. Mandy Cohen.
Good morning. Thank you, Governor. You know, as Secretary of Health and Human Services, our top priority is the health and safety of all North Carolinians. So I have 3 messages for everyone to remember today. First, as the Governor mentioned, please make sure you have food, water, and importantly, any medications with you as you may evacuate. Make sure to refill your prescriptions now, as we may not have access to pharmacies as we go forward through this storm. Second, do not drive through standing water. That was the #1 source of death we saw in Hurricane Matthew. Do not drive through standing water. And then third, please do not use gas-powered generators inside your home. Deadly carbon monoxide chemicals could be a threat. So make sure you have food, water, and medication. Please do not drive through standing water, and please make sure not to use gas-powered generators inside your home. Know that we at the department, in coordination with this great team here at the command center, are working 24/7 to set up shelters, make sure we have the necessary medical personnel in place, communicating with all the local partners. If you are a Medicaid beneficiary, make sure you know even if you are evacuating, you can see a doctor, even if it is out of state. You can get your prescriptions filled early, do that today. And if you have medical equipment that needs electricity, please get in contact with your local DSS offices today. And then lastly, if you are on food assistance, make sure you know that you can continue to use those cards at any authorized retailer. If you have food loss, know that we will be able to do some replacement there. And lastly, with long-term care facilities, as the governor mentioned, we want to see long-term care facilities and adult care homes activate those emergency plans that they've worked on, those in impacted areas. There's new flexibilities that they can take advantage of to make sure folks are in safe areas. Thank you.
Our Secretary of Transportation, General Jim Trotter.
Thank you, Governor. Yesterday and today, the Department of Transportation is actively managing our evacuation routes. Yesterday, for example, on I-40, we averaged 50 miles an hour for the entire daylight hours operating time. We're going to continue to do that today on all of those routes, to include I-40, US 74, 70, all of those that we're using to support evacuation operations. Overnight, we had 6 motor vehicle incidents that we worked with Highway Patrol to quickly clear, had zero impact on our evacuation operation. So we'll continue that monitoring and actively managing that today. In addition, our maintenance crews are readying their equipment and materials. There are also many of our maintenance offices will be conducting swiftwater rescue training today in preparation for the flooding events that we anticipate to come. Today at noon, 30 of our DMV offices, those primarily east of I-95, will be closing today, and we plan on phasing in closing of DMV offices as the storm progresses. So check the website for current update time on operation hours of our DMV offices. And then finally, our ferry division suspended ferry routes at the end of the day yesterday and are moving to their secure mooring locations today until the storm passes, and they'll reestablish those operations as soon as possible. So we're continuing monitoring our evacuation routes and continuing preparation operations for this storm.
We appreciate our FEMA partners, and we have with us our Federal Coordinating Officer for FEMA, Albie Lewis.
Thank you, Governor. For me, it's a pleasure to be here. We've been here from the start when the EOC first opened. The partnership is very solid. I appreciate Mike and his crew. We've done pre-planning for the event and have pre-positioned significant amount of supplies and other commodities, as well as such things as urban search and rescue teams, high water vehicles, swiftwater rescue teams, radios, and a lot of other things, such as aerial platforms also. I believe we are prepared for the storm, and we're here to support the state 100%. Thank you.
And our commander of our North Carolina National Guard, Major General Gregory Lusk. General Lusk.
Thank you, sir. Sir, I think it's something very appropriate that we all should just realize just for a brief moment the very selfless individuals that comprise of this entire enterprise, from the local level all the way up to the state. Those potential victims of this storm that are right now focusing their main priority on taking care of the needs of our fellow citizens across the state. To that, the governor has authorized 2,800 additional, by the end of the day, 2,800 National Guardsmen to be on duty. Indeed, going through that, the exact thing that I just described. They spent the last day or so getting their personal affairs in order, and they will be reporting to armories across the state this evening. And we'll be in a great position in order to respond to the needs of North Carolina as this storm lifts and we're able to get out into the area. We can only imagine how arduous the task may be, but we'll be prepared, from anything assisting DOT with clearance of roads to helping our first responders and our emergency personnel get into places in order to focus on the saving of lives initially, and then getting North Carolina back to the point where people can get in and out of areas that are impacted. So, pending any of your questions, sir, thank you.
Thank you, General. We appreciate all of our partners, local, state, and federal, and we will now take questions that you might have.
Morning, Governor. We've heard of some reports of gas stations being without gas due to high demand, particularly in the potentially affected areas. What is your understanding of the supplies in the east, and will they be replenished before the storm, or do people just need to accept the fact that they won't be able to get gas?
I think that supplies are pretty good, it is my understanding. The gas stations had a run with sometimes 3 to 4 times the business that they normally have. So it is my understanding that distribution is good right now, right, Mike?
Roger that,
yes.
Sir.
Okay.
Governor, you mentioned these 16 shelters that are open. I'm sure the number is fluid. Do you have a sense of how many people are in these shelters right now, and what is the capacity for them, if you know?
Mike, if you could give a report on that.
So we know that there's, the last count that I had was about 4,000 people in shelters, but that number is fluctuating. And it's, as you know, it's not a static number. People are coming in and coming out. We're anticipating opening more shelters today, and we're in the process of uploading and updating all of that information on our Ready NC app right now. So I would say by around lunchtime, you should have a better understanding of about how many folks we have and how many shelters we have. And I would just ask you to be patient, because what happens is our local partners have to load that into our system to make it visible to us, and so sometimes they're very busy and it can be a little bit behind the power curve, but we're getting there.
Hi, my name is Zara Hirji. I'm a reporter for BuzzFeed News. You had mentioned that some of the prisons and jails in the vulnerable areas are being evacuated. Can you provide some numbers on how many of these facilities you're talking about and how far along in evacuation they are?
I think these were occurring yesterday. I think the figure would be in the hundreds. Noel, would you think that's right? Probably in the hundreds, taken to safer and secure locations. Yes.
Governor, we know that in North Carolina, particularly the central region, there's been already issues from Matthew with dams, and communities having some fears about that now that we're expecting a lot of flooding. How are those communities feeling, and what can they do at this hour to prevent any further flooding issues?
I know we're working with the Army Corps of Engineers. Micah, you might want to give them a little detail on that.
Yes, sir. So we have an Army Corps of Engineers team here with us at the state EOC, and we're monitoring all of the high hazard dams, and we understand that our local partners do have concerns about dams, and we would just ask them to be watchful so that we can help them if any dam breaches and to report it immediately. Right now, the Corps is not doing any significant water releases based on the amount of rainfall that we anticipate coming in for this event. So we are watching this very carefully. We also have dam safety personnel here with us, and so it's a complete team effort.
Hi, do we know how many folks are still in areas that are affected by a mandatory evacuation order, whether it be the state order along the barrier islands or some of the local orders? Do we have any idea how many have and have not heeded that?
Mike, you want to take that?
That's a very difficult number to obtain because, as you know, and just anecdotally, it's very hard to find out how many people have decided to stay. They don't report to anyone, and so we have noticed that there have been a large amount of folks heeding the order, and so the governor issued an executive order yesterday, as he mentioned, for the barrier islands, and it is our desire that all of those people would be moving off the islands smartly, because we want everybody to be off those islands today, and we hope that they would heed those other evacuation orders at the local level for mainland as well.
I've been talking to some of the local officials, and we know how a lot of coastal North Carolinians are. They've been through storms and nor'easters and hurricanes, and many of them think they can ride it out. I do sense that people are feeling different about this storm, as they should. We need to heed the warnings of the National Weather Service, particularly regarding storm surge and the high winds, and we are encouraging people not to ride out this monster. I think a lot of people that might normally stay through a hurricane have recognized that this one's different. You're always going to have some that don't. This cone of uncertainty as to where this storm will meander, we still don't know yet. Things can still change, but we do know that this is going to be a significant event for our coastal area. If it does track a little southward, we know the north end of the storm is going to be the worst. So we need to heed the call, and we're going to continue to encourage people to follow those evacuation orders.
Governor Cooper, Sam DeGray with the Asheville Citizen-Times. The World Equestrian Games in the western part of the state are underway. Will the preparations for this hurricane siphon resources away from what's happening there?
All of our departments have gotten what they need. I think some resources were shifted from that area of the state in order to make sure that we had enough resources here. And I do not know how the weather will affect I think that they will be making that call as things move forward. But we have the resources we need, and we are on the ready.
Governor, ABC 11 Eyewitness News, what are
Yes.
the preparations for power plants or coal plants and nuclear plants? What preparations they're taking to ensure the safety of the plants?
I've talked to the CEO of Duke Energy. She says that they are taking all the necessary preparations to protect property. They've also brought in people from all over the country to help with making sure that people get their power back as soon as possible after the storm. Mike, do you have anything specifically on that you want to add?
Just to add that we do have representatives from Duke Energy and the electric co-ops here with us. We do have representatives from the FEMA radiological section, and we do have the Nuclear Regulatory Commission in here with us as the storm passes, and they will be able to provide us immediate advice and guidance on anything that would ever come up. And so we don't anticipate anything, but we're well positioned.
Governor, a recent report just talked about FEMA funding $10 million of it going towards immigration efforts. Are you at all concerned about funding during or after this event as well for FEMA, if they could speak to that report?
I've talked with FEMA Administrator Brock Long. I know that Mike continues to talk with him. We have our FEMA people embedded here with us. I've taken a trip to Fort Bragg to see the significant resources that have been placed there. I'll be heading to Kinston today to view additional resources. I've spoken with the president. Our federal partners are promising us that we will have what we need with this storm. We expect that to happen. We will hold them to it. We know how critical this is for the people of North Carolina. We've had a good relationship with FEMA in the past, and we expect that to continue.
I also wanted to ask about the relationship. You mentioned federal partners with the EPA, and EPA official yesterday had mentioned that there are 9 Superfund sites across the storm area. That's not just in North Carolina, but if you could talk about any that are in the state and what preparations are being done.
I know that our Department of Environmental Quality, Secretary Regan, is ready to help with any environmental issues that we find as a result of this storm, and we would expect that there would be some environmental issues, but we'll be ready to respond to that. Mike, do you have anything to add?
I would just tell you that we do have an EPA representative embedded with the State Emergency Response Team right here, right now, and ready to go.
Anything else? Is it 5 o'clock we're going to be back? Okay, we'll be back at 5 o'clock for another briefing. Thank you very much. Stay safe, everybody.
All right, everybody. So that was the latest from North Carolina officials, including the governor of North Carolina, Roy Cooper. You heard from him just at the end say that they'll be back at 5 o'clock Eastern time, of course, and that's still in a few hours. So that was really the latest update that they had to say. And we're going to be taking in as much video as we can to keep you guys really in tune with what's happening in the moment. Right now, not a whole lot of new video coming in. We still have that beautiful shot of Wrightsville, North Carolina, the beach down there. And I'm telling you, right now, this is truly the calm before the storm, as everyone says. This is long before the sort of outer, sort of circular winds of this hurricane end up hitting the coast. And that's where it's going to be the most damaging, of course, because as it touches down and reaches landfall, it does weaken, as some of you guys were chatting about in the chat. Now, all of the sort of more technical details are going to come from our meteorologists, and tonight they'll be chatting a little bit more, of course, on our TV broadcast as well as digital, so definitely stay tuned to us here. And if you're interested in kind of continuing on following us here, make sure you subscribe to this channel. It's Fox 5 DC on YouTube. We broadcast a daily live midday news show, but today, of course, is pretty much all consumed with Hurricane Florence, because that is the big news item today. And we had a lot of stuff to cover, a lot of elements for you, a lot of pictures of the coast, and this is actually pretty amazing. Check it out. One of the shots from today of the coast there, and there are some surfers out there, and I love this shot because we were chatting about this earlier, that if you're a surfer, this is the prime time to go next to the coast and to check out those waves. They were reporting that waves were up to 83 feet in height, and it was just prime time for people to check it out. So I got to admit, if I was into that, and I think it's kind of fun, it's adventurous, but as the governor is stressing, people do have to stay safe and take this seriously and evacuate themselves and their belongings and tie everything down. So it is really imperative that people follow those orders and not put first responders as well in danger, as well as the storm kind of approaches and it's dangerous. So we've been kind of following NASA's pictures as well from above, those aerial views, and also other officials kind of announcing what their state is doing to prepare for this. So I want to let you know that we're going to keep you guys posted throughout the afternoon, throughout the evening, on both digital and TV as well. So if you're in the DMV area, no need to be quite as concerned as the coastal Carolinas, of course. You guys see the map. We've been talking about it all morning. The DMV itself, possibly seeing some rain and some other effects and wind slightly from the storm. You can see that outline, that red outline that shows up on the screen there. That's your general region for the storm, and that will be updated throughout the day today. So don't tune away, and make sure you stay on with us for more coverage of that. In case, though, you missed the president's speaking on this incident, he spoke with FEMA officials in the Oval Office yesterday. And in case you missed that, let's check it out, because he as well has been tweeting how dangerous this storm is and was speaking with those officials ahead of Florence to prepare people. So this is what the president had to say yesterday evening, in case you missed it. Here you go.
The American dream. This company started out as a little more than a desk and a phone with a vision of the future. Harry Sandwich said he'd hire the right people and teach them.
Puerto Rico is incredibly successful. Puerto Rico was actually our toughest one of all because it's an island, so you can't truck things onto it, everything's by boat. We moved a hospital into Puerto Rico, a tremendous military hospital in the form of a ship, you know that. And I actually think, and the governor's been very nice, and if you ask the governor, he'll tell you what a great job. I think probably the hardest one we had by far was Puerto Rico because of the island nature. And I actually think it was one of the best jobs that's ever been done with respect to what this is all about. Puerto Rico got hit not with one hurricane, but with two. And the problem with Puerto Rico is their electric grid and their electric generating plant was dead before the storms ever hit. It was in very bad shape. It was in bankruptcy, had no money. It was largely, closed. And when the storm hit, they had no electricity essentially before the storm. And when the storm hit, that took it out entirely. The job that FEMA and law enforcement and everybody did working along with the governor in Puerto Rico, I think was tremendous. I think that Puerto Rico was an incredible unsung success. Texas, we have been given A+ for. Florida, we've been given A+ for. I think in a certain way, the best job we did was Puerto Rico, but nobody would understand that. I mean, it's harder to understand. It was a very hard thing to do because of the fact they had no electric. Before the storms hit, it was dead, as you probably know. So we've gotten a lot of receptivity, a lot of thanks for the job we've done in Puerto Rico. Puerto Rico is very important. And by the way, speaking of Puerto Rico, they're going to be affected pretty soon by something else that's on its way. Is that right?
Potentially, Hurricane Isaac right now is tracking south of the island, but we have several thousand people inside Puerto Rico right now working on long-term recovery that have shifted to the response mode to monitor as Isaac passes to the south.
We do not want to see Hurricane Isaac hit Puerto Rico. That's all we need. But we have a big hurricane out there, and it's sort of skirting along Puerto Rico and the edge of Puerto Rico. That would not be good.
Mr. President, how much money do you think you'll need for recovery efforts to this next hurricane, and do you have that?
Well, we have it currently. We're going to, obviously, these are all unanticipated, so we'll go to Congress. Congress will be very generous because we have no choice. This is the United States, and it's whether it's Texas or Florida, or frankly, if it's Virginia, because Virginia looks like it's very much in the path. Maryland, by the way, could be affected, very seriously affected, just to add. It's a little bit outside of the path. and then, of course, South Carolina, North Carolina. I think that any amounts of money, whatever it takes, we're going to do. But we're already set up. We have tremendous trucking systems. We have food systems. We have a lot of contractors waiting. But for the most part, it's been handled by FEMA, and also we've coordinated locally. We have food for days. We have emergency equipment and generators for many days. We should be in great shape. Now.
All right, guys, a little bit of breaking information from South Carolina. We're just getting in some live video of Charleston County, another update from the state of South Carolina. So we just played out what was earlier from this morning. Here's the latest updates. We're going to pull away from President Trump live right now in Charleston. Check it out.
We encourage all low-lying barrier islands to evacuate. Our city personnel have done a great job. Our police, our fire are double-staffed right now. We encourage all of our residents to please get off the island, seek higher ground, go inland, go south. But, again, please listen to the media. We thank y'all for putting the word out there, and please stay safe. Leave the low-lying areas such as the barrier island. Thank y'all.
Mr. Barfield. Yeah. Hey, Butch Barfield. I'm representing the city of North Charleston and Mayor Stummy. Often this is a pretty serious message. We've got all the mayor and local officials here pushing our message out. On behalf of Mayor Stummy, communication is always a challenge and always a concern. Just like Mayor Tecklenburg talked about, if you've experienced flooding, our mayor is going door to door right now for those that have past damage with flooding in this area. He's door to door with our police officers. He's door to door with our fire people. Anyone that has experienced major damage in the past as a result of flooding, our mayor is approaching their door as we speak. This is a serious challenge. Please listen to what all these folks are talking about. Thank you on behalf of North Charleston. Stay safe.
Captain Reed.
Good afternoon. I'm Captain John Reed, the captain of the Port of Charleston, as well as sector commander for Coast Guard units in South Carolina and Georgia. I'd like to reiterate what's already been said, but heed the evacuation orders. Take the time now, as it is running out. Prepare your vessels, prepare your homes and your families for this storm. Coast Guard boats, aircraft, and stations are in the final stages of assuming a protective posture, which has severely degraded our ability to conduct search and rescue operations. Working with our port partners, we are progressing to a complete closure of the Port of Charleston and anticipate closing sometime tomorrow morning. Vessels will no longer be allowed inbound to the Port of Charleston as of this evening, approximately 2000 or 8 p.m. In coordination with our agency representatives at the county and state emergency operations centers, we are already developing objectives and staging for post-storm assessments and response operations. Our community and our lives will be impacted by Hurricane Florence. Take time now to complete your evacuation preparations and depart. If securing your vessel, remember to remove your personal locator beacons and emergency position indicating radio beacons from your vessels so we do not have to go after a false alert, putting lives of others at risk as they go out to search for an empty boat. If securing your vessel, and then finally, if you need to communicate your distress to the Coast Guard while you're on the water, do not rely on social media. Use 911 or your VHF FM radio to communicate that distress. Thank you.
Councilmember Sickings.
Thank you all very much. I'm Mike Sickings. I'm the chairman of CARTA, and as I look on the wall right now and as you watch from your homes today, it's 2:15 in the afternoon. We've been talking for 2 days about this storm. It is coming ever closer. It started 1,000 miles away. It's now less than 400 miles away. And at 6 o'clock, you heard that the county is going to suspend its operations of bus operations around the county. At 9 o'clock tonight, CARTA will suspend its operations. So between now and 9 o'clock, please make arrangements to do what you know you need to do, which is move from a place of danger to a place of safety. CARTA is currently running on the peninsula of Charleston an emergency hurricane route. It has 14 stops. It's a circulator route. It will bring you until 6 o'clock to the county. Until 9 o'clock, it will take you directly to a shelter. It will cease operations at 9. We'll continue our regular operations also until 9 o'clock tonight. And after that point, there will be no more service to get you from a place of danger to a place of safety. Mayor Haney really said it best. You can take the hardest part of the equation right out of this, and that is to put yourselves out of harm's way. Carta is here to help you, but please work with us now as time is drawing short as opposed to a few days ago when we had a lot of time. If you find yourself in a position where you are stranded, the place to call is the emergency number that the county gave you, which is 843-746-3900. But as of 6 o'clock tonight, the major route for the county will be shutting down at 9 o'clock tonight. Both Carta regular service and its emergency service for the hurricane downtown will be suspended, and operations will not commence until we've coordinated with all 3 counties before that goes. So please, if you haven't already done so, make arrangements, get to a stop. We will not leave you behind, but after 9 o'clock, there just will be no service out there. Please take hold of your own destiny here. Get out of harm's way, get onto the buses, and we'll make sure that you're safe. Thank you all very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have a few minutes for questions, so ask away. Anyone? Good.
For some reason, I think most people in this room have been through this rodeo before. It doesn't change. It's still scary, it's still threatening, and quite frankly, I hope everyone remains safe and pays attention to protect theirs and their family. Something that has not been said, no one's mentioned hospital or medical services. Remember, the hospitals and nursing homes evacuated. So your accessibility to emergency medical is going to be real limited if you stay here. Thank you.
We do have, Stasha will provide some details for the Spanish-speaking community.
Buenas tardes. Me gustaría comenzar destacando a nuestra comunidad que ahora es el momento de irse y encontrar un lugar o un refugio seguro. Las operaciones de autobús del condado de Charleston se llevará a cabo hasta las 6 p.m., dependiendo del clima. Este puede ser la última oportunidad para tomar un autobús y llegar a un refugio. Es nuestro entendimiento que el tráfico ha sido ligero durante el día. Aprovechen la inversión de carreteras en la I-26. La línea de información en español del condado de Charleston está activa. Llamen a esta línea si tienen preguntas sobre el huracán, transportación o refugios. El número es 843-746-3909. Esta línea está activa 24 horas hasta nuevo aviso. Gracias.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, everybody. Well, that is the latest from South Carolina Emergency Management on this storm. And if you've been watching with us, thanks for hanging out with us on the stream. And also, if you are just checking into the stream, we've been tracking what we can as of right now, 2:20 p.m. Eastern time with this storm. And that includes charts and graphs and NASA aerial views and also videos from emergency management and personnel from these states that are going to be affected. You can see on the map here these states that are going to be affected right there, North Carolina, South Carolina, mostly with the brunt of it. And we've been hearing from their governors and their officials on how to prepare for this throughout the day. So we're going to continue on that trend and kind of give you the best coverage that we can. And that includes some of our own reporters and meteorologists who are going down there. They've driven down already, and they're down in those regions to kind of see what people are doing to prepare for this storm. One of them is Marina Morocco, and she's not on the phone with us right now, but she did tweet a couple pictures of what it looks like down in the Carolinas to some of the stores that are now closing ahead of this storm. There are not any gas cans left. The plywood is running low, she says. The sun is out and the breeze is picking up, and stronger effects are, of course, later to be felt tonight and tomorrow. But you can see the near empty shelves here in Home Depot. And we were talking to Gary earlier, and he was mentioning that the Walmart by them was closing early. that was in sort of the Jacksonville, North Carolina area. The Walmart was going to be closing at 5 p.m. and he had to make sure his hotel was going to be staying at least open for them. And it is, thank goodness. So good news that they're going to be able to stay down there. But you can see just the visuals there of the empty shelves there in Home Depot. And people are really prepping for this, as they should be, and also bearing down and getting ready for this and getting their properties ready and getting out of there as well. So that is the latest tweet from her. And I know she's going to be doing some video and some packages and even some live shots for our evening news. So check it out if you're in the DMV area. She'll be giving her update live from North Carolina, as well as Gary. He'll be sending back some information from some of the surfers and the families that he met on the beach in North Carolina. So it is going to get hit hard, like you guys are saying. In general, North Carolina, South Carolina are under emergency sort of declarations. You guys have heard it all morning, what people are supposed to be doing. So please do heed that information. As everyone is saying, don't find yourself in high water. Get out of there. I want to go back, though, while we still have this, to that conversation that the president had with FEMA inside the Oval Office. He spoke with those officers ahead of the hurricane yesterday, and there's some good information in here from some of these officers. So take a listen to what they had to say.
Days, we have emergency equipment and generators for many days. We should be in great shape. Now, I've also heard it could be 21 and 22 inches. If you can imagine what that is, 22 inches of rain. It is not something that we've had. Certainly, we've never had this on the East Coast. So, but I think we're very well prepared, very well set up, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I think this storm right here is very similar to Hurricane Hugo, and it's almost like a combination of Hurricane Hugo in '89 and Hurricane Floyd in 1999. But look, successful disaster response and recovery is one that's locally executed, state managed, and federally supported. So what FEMA is doing is pre-positioning the federal government's assets to support each one of those governors that are about to be impacted with achieving their response and recovery goals. And that's the way emergency management and disaster response works best. I also think I'd like to point out that what we learned last year is that we have got to build a true culture of preparedness within our citizens here in America. This is a partnership, and it takes anything from neighbor helping neighbor all the way to the federal government when it comes to correctly responding and recovering.
Minister, can we ask you about preparations for power outages? What FEMA does right now?
Sure, great. That's a great question. So FEMA doesn't own the power grids in any one of these states. A lot of them are owned by the private industry. So what we have are business emergency operations center calls. We're concentrating with the private vendors to make sure that they have strong mutual aid programs in place, and we set up incident support bases to help stage power crews coming in from other states. And largely, it's FEMA's job to get out of the way to make sure that the private power companies can get into these areas to set up their grid. We don't own it. We don't own it.
But unlike Puerto Rico, you have very strong power companies. They're very powerful, very well managed in the sense that they have tremendous overcapacity. They are going to do a great job. They also have made contracts with other power companies that won't be affected, and they're going to be coming in. Just to answer your question, they'll be coming in to the various states that will be affected. They're going to be coming in very strongly, and they're already lining up. They'll be here probably for the most part tomorrow or shortly before the storm hits. So they're going to be in great shape. These are really states that have very, very strong power authorities.
What's your message, Mr. President, to people who might not have evacuated yet?
Well, it's very risky. I mean, again, we've never seen anything quite like this on the East Coast, at least. And if it turns out to be as bad, we go out there. You have people that actually go fly through these storms. These are very brave people, but they fly through. And from what I'm hearing, the sites that they're seeing have not been seen on the East Coast before. So I would say everybody should get out. I mean, you have to listen to your local authorities. And whether you're upland or downland, but depending on where you are, you have to listen and you have to get out. If they want you to get out, because it's going to be impossible to have people get in there, whether it's law enforcement or FEMA or anybody else, once this thing hits, it's going to be really, really bad along the coast. Okay? Anything else?
Do you believe Rob Porter and Gary Cohn's denials today?
Well, you shouldn't be talking about that right now because it doesn't matter, but I really appreciate their statement. Their statement was excellent. And they both sent out beautiful, which shows that the book is just a piece of fiction. Thank you very much. I think we're very well prepared. And thank you all very much. Appreciate it. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Mind giving us an update on the trade talks? Thanks.
Trade talks are coming along very well. We're dealing with China.
All right, guys, that was the latest from the president yesterday, along with some FEMA officials inside the Oval Office. In case you missed it, just playing that out for you guys to hear what they are talking about sort of on the federal level, of course, for this emergency management operation. Okay, we're going to move on, guys, and Sam is coming over to take over for the next portion of Fox 5 Live, so stay on with us for all your live video needs. We're going to be jumping in and out to any coverage that we have from any of those states that are affected. Right now, as you know, we still have those satellites to show you and sort of these moving images as the storm continues on and presses towards the coast. And I will catch you guys again tomorrow on our stream at 11 o'clock. So stay on with us. You can follow me here and subscribe to our channel, that red button that says subscribe. You can come onto our YouTube channel and see when we pop up on your screen. Okay, guys, Sam is up next for more weather coverage, and we're going to be chatting with some more meteorologists and giving you the latest from our reporters who are down there in North Carolina as we speak and taking in the scene there. So more to come, and we'll leave you with this bump shot of the satellite.